Former press secretary Stephanie Grisham has been spilling lots of tea about her time at the Trump White House. Now, for me personally, it has been wildly entertaining. Wildly. One of the things, however, that's not quite as entertaining is the culture in Washington under Donald Trump, specifically the culture of sexual harassment. So I'm going to be super real here and not just point at the Trump administration on that. Understand that sexual harassment exists in so many different places of power. I mean, you got Andrew Cuomo, you had Bill Clinton, Harvey Weinstein, Matt Lauer, Bill O'Reilly, Roger Ailes. So none of the things pointed out, honestly, about sexual harassment in the White House were really all that shocking. That said, especially, of course, considering the Access Hollywood tape in 2016 about Trump, despite all that, understand that Grisham likes to climb the clout ladder and was very successful at it, by the way, even becoming a press secretary who held absolutely no press conferences whatsoever. And now Chris Cuomo, yes, as you point out, as well. So despite all that, as I said, you have all of these, different people that have, done these things and done sexual harassment. And so women generally, and especially in places of power, face a very difficult situation, right? A very difficult environment to get and amass power in. And that's the unfortunate truth in reality. Now, again, Grisham, despite all that, climbed that ladder and she became very successful. And now that she's no longer part of the administration, the former administration, as I said, she has been spilling the tea. And I love it. So now I think her story is believable. I believe the things that she says. Why? Because if you combine that with all the knowledge that we already had on Donald Trump and the disaster that was his administration, the different leaks that had come out, tumultuousness of the White House that he ran, and just general knowledge about the person, you believe it. So now the longtime White House staffer had described a president in her book who objectified a press aide, certainly not one of the worst things that he's ever done, and unsettled her with denials that he had raped magazine columnist E. Jean Carroll back in the 90s, and once called Grisham to talk about how his penis wasn't small or weird. Fun. So now Grisham, for example, wrote that Trump was allegedly so obsessed with a young female press aide that he once requested she be brought onto Air Force One so he could, quote, look at her behind, according to the Washington Post and New York Times. Trump also told Grisham to promote her to keep her happy so that he could, I would assume, continue to look at her behind. Because of course. On another occasion, after Stormy Daniels said in an interview that Trump's penis looked like a toadstool, I'm sorry, Grisham says that Trump called her to assure her that his penis was, in fact, not shaped like a toadstool or small. I don't want to imagine that conversation, but we're probably going to anyway. But you gotta, why bring that up? Why would you say that? Why would you do that? This is not something that normal people actually do. You don't just slip that into a conversation or make that the centerpiece of the conversation. Oh yeah, by the way, my cock, totally normal shaped. It doesn't look like a mushroom at all. In fact, it is both tremendous and normal, but big, but very, very normal and big. Did I mention big and normal? Her response being, of course, yes, sir. And one of those things that I think women in the workplace have to, or I shouldn't say have to, but I think traditionally have put up with for the sake of keeping their jobs, which is incredibly sad and a super, a gigantic indictment of the system and how pervasive sexual harassment is in the workplace. But that response is just a woman going, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to get fired. I don't want to deal with this. Yes, sir. Sure, absolutely. Whatever you say, great. But again, if you're having that conversation with someone, with anyone, you are definitely insecure. There is something going on down there for sure, but it ain't tremendous. Now, something a lot less amusing, of course, is another incident that had been detailed. This is after E. Jean Carroll had sued Trump for that alleged rape. After she came forward, he, of course, in Trumpian fashion, decided to slander her in a million different ways. But what he said to Grisham about it apparently unsettled her. Here's what he said, quote, "You just deny it. That's what you do in every situation, right, Stephanie? You just deny it." Oh, well, that's it. You just deny it. Deny, deny, deny. That's it. That's all you got to do. And then it goes away magically, right? Right? No, it doesn't go away. But if you're, look, again, the unfortunate truth here is if you're wealthy and or allegedly wealthy and powerful and well-known, very likely you're not going to get in trouble, or you're going to get a reduced sentence if you actually do end up getting caught. You know, you look at, Cosby and all that. It's a sad state of affairs, really. Women do not get treated well at all in the workplace especially when it comes to sexual harassment or rape and things like that. And it is, as I said, pretty sad. So now, all that being terrible, that kind of begs the question of why she would even stay for that long. Honestly, I mean, there's a couple of different answers to that. None of them are great, but a lot of them do tend to, I think, mix and coincide and to explain her decision. And for one, and I'm going to agree with slightly with her detractors for a second and say that, yeah, she did want money. Yeah, of course. Money, clout, and a payday. Of course. And here's the thing. This shouldn't be surprising to anybody because everybody in Washington wants the same thing. You don't generally jump into politics without any sort of desire to get money, clout, and power. And again, this is part of why Washington is a cesspool, a disaster. And so, and she likely knew that and was like, all right, whatever, means to an end. I'll put up with it. I'm going to climb that ladder. And she did until January 6th. The insurrection attempt was her line. But anyway, and again, that's the culture in Washington and in circles of power where you have influential men that get away with being complete and utter shitlords, because I think there are women out there that feel that they have to play the game in order to get their own power, or else they're going to get shut out. I think, as I said before, an indictment of the system more than anything. I think that makes some women in power feel like they have to play that game. They have to deal with this in order to get their own power. It's not right at all. It's not right at all. So that being the case, I don't think at this point Grisham actually cared about other women. I think she only really got upset when it affected her personally. Because again, everything was fine up until January 6th. Then that was the final straw. Now, in the president's denials of this, which were, of course, hilarious, the barely knew her, the coffee girl, disgruntled employee, there is that kernel of truth, as I mentioned. And, of course, there was the payday, as I talked about before. That's what it's always been about for some of these people. And what better way to do it now than to just show people that, what we had already expected to be the reality inside the Trump White House. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.